And we are live. Hey, Christy.
Hello. Hi, Jen. How's it going?
Good. Okay, so before we get started, everyone, welcome back to a special episode, a special time today for Standing Tall, two girls and a guy. And you'll see it's just two girls today because Michael's unfortunately not able to join us. However, if you get a chance, wish him a happy birthday because today is his birthday. So shout out to Michael Paterano. Happy birthday. We hope that you're enjoying every part of your day.
Should we sing for him?
No, I think the singing's not necessary.
Good.
And I will mention that I decided to bring back a cold from Austin. So if at some point I go mute, Christy's going to take over if I need to excuse myself for a minute from a cough. But that's not going to happen. We're just going to call that out. So on that note, we thought, Dr. Christy and I thought, we could talk about today. We just had the most amazing trip in Austin, followed up with a Theta Healing practitioner certification over the weekend. And I don't know, Christy, for you, but for me, certainly, there were so many lessons and information and experiences that were just mini aha moments throughout the entire trip. And the one that really lands with me so much in this moment is just the importance of just being free and just letting everything be as it is. It was for me, it was one of those trips that, although yes, I had some calls and did some work while away, it was just so reviving and just unplanned for the most. But we'll stay with that thought before I go on. What do you think?
So, as you know, and I don't know how many people who may be watching know, I tend to be more of a planner. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you that it was actually kind of nice. And the thing is, when I'm on a vacation, for lack of a better term, I like a good amount of scheduling, like knowing what's happening, but I also like a good amount of just existing and not having an agenda. And so I think it was personally, it was a very perfect combination of all that. Just relaxing and existing and letting, the time take us as it did with our group, as well as having a couple of things planned. Seeing our beautiful friend get engaged was an amazing thing that it warmed my heart so much. I could look at those pictures all day.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And the amount of healing that comes out of something and an experience like that, of just breaking away, having fun, doing things out of the norm that you wouldn't normally do. For anyone watching, to give you a bit of a snippet, I can tell you that day over day, we talked to people that maybe have never experienced someone sitting and talking with them. The one that really just sits so powerfully for me is, in Austin, they have a slogan, "Keep Austin Weird." And there is a very prominent amount of creatives who are homeless on the streets. And we had the chance to just talk to several, and sit with one gentleman specifically who, gosh, when you just sit and talk to someone and be in their space and understand their perspectives and just show that care, there's so much life that can be brought to that other person with that.
Yeah, I can tell you that was something I never really did before. I mean, I'm from Chicago, so I've encountered, my share of the homeless community before. And while I always try to show compassion and kindness, I can tell you I've never flat out once sat down and spoken with anybody before. And I know I wasn't quite there at the time when you guys had that conversation with the other individual, but in the course of being there, it was just a very different perspective and a different way of interacting that I've never done before.
Yeah. How did it feel for you in those moments? Like, for anyone, because I think we can talk. I can pretty much talk to anybody. Like, if I'm out in public, they're getting a hi or hello or smile from me in some way, shape, or form. But I think that not everyone feels that comfort level of just being able to smile and interact and say, "Hey, Christy, how you doing?" So from your perspective, how did that feel for you? And what would you recommend to other people who are interested in engaging with other people and understanding people from a human level?
Yeah, in total honesty, I still don't believe I would do it if I were alone.
Hmm.
It's for me, there's a level of certainty and a comfort level that it wouldn't feel right for me.
Yeah.
Um, because, just to be real here, people who've been homeless for a while are and can be significantly malnourished, and so their brain patterns don't necessarily fire appropriately. And sometimes, I mean, I know when we were having lunch the one day, we saw that one person have what could have been a potentially violent outburst outside.
Hmm.
And I would not knowingly want to put myself in a situation where I would feel unsafe.
Got that.
So when I'm in a group, I feel like completely comfortable. That's just where my comfort lies. But it was a beautiful experience having you guys all there and just feeling that comfort of just being able to go up to people and talk and see where they're from and what they're up to and what their passions are and that sort of thing, which I never would have done on my own.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do it again if you're up for another trip somewhere.
Always. Yes. I'm a yes. Can we stay on that topic for a minute?
Yeah.
So guys, I had an experience on this one with this particular person, and I'll do a blog about it. I plan to do a blog about it over the next couple of weeks. His name was Blue, and Christy wasn't there yet for this particular experience, but I can tell you that values are really important to me, and integrity and just how people are treated in all levels is really to my core appreciation. And there's a large number of people in the area we were in that are homeless, and we experienced a lot of people asking us for money or some other form of something. And admittedly, and for a moment, we all walked by this gentleman, when we walked into the store, and instantly when I walked in the store, I knew it. I'm like, Jen, that's not your character. Like, I at least always acknowledge someone. And I walked back out, and he was already walking down the street, and he didn't respond well to none of us acknowledging him. And instantly I said, that was completely out of character for me. And he instantly said it was out of character for me too. And then, like I said before, I sat down by him and we, with the other people who were with me, and we sat down and we engaged conversation for over 20 minutes. And just, I think that that's the biggest part that I want to get across to people is people just want to be seen. And even something as simple as giving a smile and a nod or I can't at this point or whatever it is, not disregarding someone. And I think that that's sometimes what people experience who are in a tough situation. And the fact of the matter is we don't know the life that they've gone through. We don't know whatever experiences that they've had. But just at least acknowledging that they are human and that they're going through something, or just that they're there and present, I think is something that they may not always feel, and is our one opportunity to really be human with another person and just say, I see you, I hear you. So
yeah, that's beautiful, and I absolutely love it. I kind of wish I was there for that part.
Yeah. And this particular person has been homeless for 17 years. So there was a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from my personal perspective and experience, I always try to keep a non-perishable item in my car for if I'm driving and I see somebody, that's holding a sign or whatever on my way to or from work or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And if I have something, I always try to stop and provide them something. But like I said, I've never really sat and engaged a conversation before. And for me, I feel like it's always come from just like keeping an energetic distance for safety purposes or some kind of protection level.
Yeah.
And just to your point of saying something like, and it's not my character. You know me, I'm a connector by nature. Yeah. Like I love talking with people. And so it's not really like me either to push people away. And so it was just a really good learning experience for me to probably open that up a little bit more. And even when doing something as simple as giving, somebody that I see on the road a pack of goldfish or something, just look them in the eye a bit more and hopefully have a small connection of making them feel seen, because they are human beings.
Yeah. So true. So true. Okay, so let's talk about Kira.
Love her.
Yes. So, and this is for me, again, staying on the topic of communication and understanding people and just getting to other people's level and where they're at in the moment. We had the opportunity to meet a young lady while we were out to lunch, and she had accidentally spilled her drinks on us. More specifically, Doc, Christy.
I was pretty wet for the rest of the time.
She was a little wet. And in that moment, I really have it that the way that we responded and the way that we supported her will forever change the trajectory of how she treats other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing. You want to tell the story, or do you want me to?
Go for it. You go for it.
So, like Jen said, she spilled, I think it was just 2 drinks or something, most of which were on the floor. My feet were quite wet and sticky afterwards. And what we noticed is, the other support staff came to her aid. She was very clearly upset, as I think anybody would be. I know if I was in that situation, I would not have likely handled it well, especially, what was she, 21, 20?
21.
So, so somebody else came and, apologized and served us the drinks. And we asked her, like, is Kira coming back? Like, we're really okay. Like, she doesn't have to feel like she can't come back and see us. And she says, no, she's just collecting herself. She'll be back in a little bit. And so, I think you've said in your post, Jen, like, to have the presence of mind to, like, know what you need and go take a break and, get calm and collected before coming back out, I think was brilliant, and have that self-awareness. And so maybe 5-10 minutes later, she came back out and was clearly embarrassed. And, like, I don't know if you could tell her body language, but I could see, like, she was kind of like this.
Yeah.
She didn't really want to see us again, but she also knew, being a strong person, had to come and face us and apologize and do the right thing. And we didn't have anywhere to be. It didn't really matter to us. We were just like, it's okay. It doesn't matter. We all make mistakes. We're here for you. And, the fact that you came over and, still showed up and are showing us and communicating with us who you are and what you're doing. And, like, this is real. And this is who we want to be for you. And so we just ended up having a little conversation with her. You did your little video with her.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And just, like, watching her, like, go from this little shell to, oh my God, these people aren't going to hurt me and they're not going to give me a shitty tip, Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the points that I want to definitely hit on is how many times in life do we see someone make a mistake? Or I was on a call earlier today and the comment was made about dumb questions. Like, how many times do we have interactions with other people that there are quote unquote mistakes made, whatever that really means? Or something that someone asks that maybe someone thinks is a silly question, but legitimately, maybe that person just didn't know. How many other experiences do we have like that in our everyday with employees, with family, with any kind of interaction that we can take a different response and in turn change the trajectory for that person, right? For in Kira's situation, I mean, we really celebrated her mistake, woohoo, you got that out of the way. Like, and imagine if, especially in our customer service and for wait staff or for retail staff or for anybody for that matter, to just have that change and that shift from people that they're serving. I will be curious to know the impact that she carries through on that with her lifetime. So.
And I think that's one of the most amazing things is we'll never really know.
Right.
Most likely. I mean, we have her contact information, so there's a chance we'll hear from her in a decade. And it's like, hey guys, guess what?
Yeah.
But it's more likely that we'll never know
what
impact, our interaction had. And I think that's also one of the things I took home from the whole experience in Austin in general is we don't know what impact we're going to have on anybody. Now, granted, that situation I feel like had potential to be more impactful, but who's to say that had more impact on her than a 12-second conversation that we have just passing somebody on the street.
Right.
Because we don't have a clue what anyone else is going through or what they've got on their minds. And so one smile, one eye contact, one anything could change their whole day.
Right. Which brings me to my next question is how else, this to me is that bigger topic of how else can we support other people? how else can we either recognize or acknowledge or make sure that another person is seen and heard?
In all situations, you mean?
I think in any situation. So what do we have so far? We have, okay, let's celebrate mistakes. Like, big deal.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mistakes happen. I think, I forget who it was, but someone made the distinction between a mistake and a choice. Like, there's poorer
Yeah.
choices, of course.
Yep.
But there's mistakes that just, we all make mistakes. We all dump the glass of milk, proverbial speaking, and let's celebrate it as opposed to saying, "Whoa, that happened."
Yep. I need to do that a bit more in my own world. Literally, yeah. Okay. So I'll just have myself here. Right before coming up here on this call, I was like, I wanted a little bit of food before coming up here. And I went into my fridge and got our giant jar of Greek olives. And I picked it up. It's huge. It's from Costco. So I pick it up. I put it under my arm so I could close the fridge. And one of my lovely children, the last time they took it out, they didn't put the cap on all the way.
Oh, good.
And so it slipped and spilled all over the floor and all over me. And
Yay!
I did not handle it great.
Yay!
I was like, guys, who was the last person to touch the olives? I'm like, I need an honest answer right now. And we had a whole thing about it. And it was like, and I didn't lose my shit. I'll be real. I didn't like get angry or anything, but I was like, I was slightly annoyed that now I smell like olives and there was stuff all over the floor and I had him clean it up and everything. But I could have handled it better. So there's a spectrum of like handling things like that between making people recognize, okay, next time we maybe put the cap on all the way so this doesn't happen. And now let's clean up after our mess, as opposed to, so there's like, that's like the ideal, what I could have done better. And the total like screaming and yelling that I didn't do either. I was probably somewhere in the middle. So little things like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's in those littlest moments that make the biggest impact, especially when it's coming from someone of influence, like a parent or a teacher or someone else. So, yeah, cool. Okay, so.
Yeah, so celebrating mistakes is a really good one.
Yeah, agreed. I also believe that, especially for people who are close to us and people who we know more intimately, being aware of who they are and how they respond is a really key piece of how we can support them. Because I don't know about you, but I know for me, for years, it was like, I'm good. Even when inside it's like, shit, it wasn't all good. And I think knowing that and being in tune to that is really how we can help serve people that the people that we know who are close to us. And as I say that out loud, I really believe that if we just pay attention to people in whole, we can tell tonality. It was easy to tell, using Kira as an example, it was easy to tell her body language of how she responded, of when she walked away and what her response was, just watching her. And you knew that she was emotionally impacted by the situation.
Yep.
And responding to that and acknowledging, like, you're saying this, but this is what I'm seeing, or this is what I'm hearing otherwise. Is there something else there for you?
Mm-hmm. And in that, it's not only knowing the people that are in our worlds, so we can recognize if there is that shift and change, so we can help support them better, but it's also not being so wrapped up in our own shit to miss it.
Yeah. Oh, agreed.
Because admittedly, there's situations and stuff that happens in my own life and people that I'm close to that if I'm not really paying that close attention because I'm busy or this or that, I miss stuff that could have potentially been more obvious.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so communication people. What else did we learn from our trip? I learned so much. So I have all kinds of, I'll let you go next. Like, what was a big aha, oh my gosh moment, reminder? Maybe it was even a small one that was just, that came up for you.
My big one that I'm still working on is, this wasn't even, it had no relationship to being in Austin. It was just the fact that we were in Austin when it happened. Was it was my own realization that 4 years, for probably practically my whole life, I've always been one to go with whatever everyone else wanted and never really look at whatever I actually wanted. So you guys, I can share the story briefly, just in the sense that you guys asked me what I wanted to do. And couldn't freaking answer the question because I've stopped for years admitting that I want anything.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, that's really hard sometimes because there are some times where I'm like, I really don't care.
Yeah.
Like, especially in that situation, I really didn't care what we did.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, putting the pressure on me to actually answer that question and look within was something I don't do.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my biggest things in coming through and really digging a little bit to see what that really meant and giving myself grace and understanding and some pieces of awareness to know it's okay to want things. And then we have relationships with people and then we compromise, and we don't always get exactly what we want every single time, but we're never going to get even close to what we want if we don't know what that is.
Right. Agreed. And to provide some context for any of our viewers of the situation, in this particular situation, I think there was definitely a little bit of a split of, we had a team of us there. And I think there was a little bit of a split what everybody wanted. And the thing of it is if you have a group or you have a community of people together, not everybody needs to want the same thing. In this particular situation, myself and one other person, we had been engrossed in amazing, beautiful conversations all day and had this amazing interaction at the engagement party. And both of us were kind of like, yeah, I'm ready for a break. I'm ready for a couple hours to just regroup and then have a nice, intimate little time together. And there was a couple other people who were like, no, I'm kind of ready to keep interacting and keep staying. And the beautiful thing, I think, in that moment was all of us really took the opportunity to honor what each of us wanted. And
sorry, we got interrupted by a 10-year-old asking. Somebody apparently came to the door asking if we wanted our roof cleaned. So I'm glad he handled it. He's gone already.
The beautiful thing for me is staying on that same topic. I am so grateful to be at a point of life of just being able to honor and say, yeah, I'm ready for a break. Because I can tell you for years, I would have been the one saying, no, I'll stay with everybody, even though, gosh, I've just had like 10 hours of interaction with people and conversations, and I'm ready for a break. Like, give me a couple hours of regrouping.
Yeah. And for me in that situation, it was like, if I look really deep to figure out exactly what I wanted it all. I think you even said that at one point. Yeah. I was like, I wanted everything. I wanted us all to stay together, and I wanted to stay and hang out. I wanted to just do everything. And that wasn't possible because then I'd be encroaching on what other people wanted. And so the choice was then, okay, you guys go for a while. And then upon reflection, it was like, okay, I want to hang out for a little bit longer, but I still want that intimate gathering later, which we ended up having. So it ended up being perfect, of course.
Yeah.
Which I think we can only achieve through that being real and honest with ourselves.
Yeah, 100% agree. And let's stay on that for a minute. So what about the importance of honoring what you want? And the importance of honoring yourself and your feelings, and not always needing to feel like you have to go with the crowd if really you're being drawn in a different direction.
Right.
For me, it comes to a health conversation. Emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, mindful wellness. I mean, if we're consistently not honoring our own feelings or emotions or desires, and we're constantly working to meet the demands of or desires of other people, it will at some point catch up with us.
Absolutely. I just had that conversation with a patient this week, actually. And for me, in situations like that, for me, I feel like part of the reason that I don't always get in touch with what I truly want and honor that is because the situations move too fast for me. And if I were to give a true, honest answer, I have to withdraw for a second and be like, okay, let me really dial back and think about what I truly want here.
Yeah.
And there's not always time for that because the people are like, oh, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I want to think about it first. And then that slows things down. And then I feel like I just have to react and respond. And in most cases, I'll just defer to whatever the group would want. And that's who I've been for the last however many years I've been alive.
Yeah.
And then the patient interaction I had this week, this individual is moving for like the third time in the last couple of years. She has an 8-month-old baby, and she's moving again with her husband and her now baby back somewhere where they were before. And she's really, like, I even muscle tested her on it. She's really balanced on the issue. She's a beautiful soul. And I admired her so much. And I told her as such, that I'm like, you're so smart and you're so grounded and you're so rational about this decision because you see all sides of it. And at the same time, you're not really, like, she's communicating with her husband and all her feelings about it. She's not eliminating anything of herself from the equation, but she still admits that she hasn't honored herself and her wants in several years.
Wow.
And over time, that's going to wear on somebody's mental, emotional well-being and their physical health too.
Yeah. Okay, so let's stay on that for a minute, knowing, because I'm someone who I'm like, okay, here's what I want to do, and I'll tend to jump in pretty quickly. For someone like yourself, and again, neither's more good or more bad. Right. Just they are. Someone like yourself who knows you need to honor and just take a minute and step back. Can you see yourself doing that moving forward and just taking that step back and say, give me a minute, let me ponder it. Okay, good. Let's do this.
And honestly, I feel like the only reason that that's who I've become is because I've been the person to just react and go along with whatever everybody else wants for so long that my instinct would be to just answer with the collective. And so it's in that taking a quick step to actually ask myself, what do I really want?
Yeah.
And that's why it will take longer now than it would have otherwise, or maybe might in the future once I get more used to doing that in my head.
Yeah.
But it's new to me now.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, can I see myself doing that? Yeah, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
I'll commit to trying. And I know I can rely on amazing friends like you to keep me honest on that.
Yes. Yes. Like, Christy, is that what you really want? Love it. So for anyone watching who has a similar situation of you need that time to process for a minute, take it. You know, there's no harm if someone says, what restaurant do you want to go to? Give me a minute. Let me ponder for a minute. So you can really honor your choices and what you really want.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great one. All right. Let's talk about play and fun and just experience. Guys, I can tell you, man, I played more over the last week and just laughed and giggled and just it was so freeing and just being silly in so many moments that I can say that in my adult years, I kind of lost sight of a little bit. You know, because I'm a natural adventurous soul anyway. So for me to go on adventures is exciting. But I think that sometimes as we get older and we get in the rhythm of working and families, and we lose sight of that. And in all candor, like over the last week, it was kind of a revival of playing, you know, renting scooters and driving them over Austin.
That's what I loved.
Yeah, it was a blast. And, you know,
did you ever get yours up to 16 miles an hour? Because I did, and that was awesome.
You know, I didn't. I think I got just over 15.
Nice.
But man, you guys, they were a blast. And I had never ridden an electric scooter before. And just giving yourself that chance to hop on and try it. Why not? So
I can tell you why I haven't in my recent past. And this, you alluded to this in what you were saying, is when I came into parenthood, there's this underlying subconscious belief system that I've had in there. That means now that I'm a parent, I can't have fun.
Why?
We don't need to dig on that right now. But
well, I think it's helpful. You know, think about anyone watching who has a similar mindset.
My only explanation for it is that I feel like I have to be the protector now.
Okay.
I can't just let go and just have fun because I'm responsible for other small human beings.
Got it.
Now, when we're on that trip and I was not with my small human beings, I could legitimately be free and have fun, which now if I were taking my kids on the scooters or if I took my kids ziplining, it would have been a totally different experience. Not to say that it wouldn't be fun. It would have been a different level of fun though, because there would have been some other level. And maybe this is a story I can break at some point, but for me, I can feel like there would have been another level of, I can have 80% fun, but 20% has to be grounded to make sure everything's okay.
Keeping them safe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm going to have to ponder that one because I don't necessarily know that I have an answer, quote unquote, for it. I hear you. And I mean, my Bo's all grown up. So, and even now, admittedly, even when we do things, my eye is still partially like, where's he at? Is he okay? And I think that's just a natural instinct.
Yeah. It's still one I'd love to break
Yeah.
apart now, because I feel like I could be more present and enjoy the moments with them more if I weren't so wrapped up in some energetic, intuitive, what could go wrong? What do I have to protect here?
Yeah.
So for whatever that could be worth for people watching, if there's anybody watching that has insights or can commiserate on that, I'm all ears.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I can't say that. I can't say when Bo was growing up and we did things together. Yeah, there was always that sight of mind of where he's at. But I can't say that it necessarily slowed me down from doing in the moment of the things that we were doing.
Yeah.
Or that I had less fun doing them per se. And that's kind of what I'm hearing. Did I hear that right?
It's a different type of fun. Like,
Okay.
I mean, like, it's the level of fun for me that I can like completely let go versus not completely letting go. And so I have fun both ways. Like, so for instance, my family and I with the boys did a little ropes course thing about a month or two ago.
Yeah.
And it was amazing and it was awesome. And
Okay.
I felt super strong and super empowered after the whole thing, because literally like I'm walking behind my 5-year-old the entire time and empowering him to like, no, you can keep going, because the only way through this now is forward, because if we go back then we can't make it back.
Yeah.
Like the only way to keep going is to just do it. And watching him conquer that fear, because he was certainly nervous, and then being there to support him, it was an amazing experience. I wouldn't change a single thing about it.
Yeah.
And it was different than ziplining with my girlfriends, where I didn't have to have that role, you know?
Yeah.
So not to say one's better than the other. It's just, I think I know I need a good balance of having that time where I can be completely let loose and just jump off the zip line and enjoy myself without being in the mom role.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question. Do you feel like the parent role, as in them seeing you be silly or fun or anything like that, impacts it? Them seeing you that free? Like, does that in any way resonate with you as to your holding yourself back?
It's a good question. I'll have to ponder a second.
Got you.
I can see it being yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to give that one more thought.
Okay.
I don't like dead space on our calls here. So
I'll come back to it, not on this call, but I'll
okay,
come
great.
back. Okay. So fun, adventure, benefits. Guys, I can tell you, although I came back with a cold, which I have it, that's from a whole different reason. The level of just reviving and just playing and having fun and getting up every morning and getting to nature by the water, like all of it encompassing, was so emotionally, energetically balancing. Like, to do that as frequently as you can is healing. I have it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah. And you can do small things. So let's break it down for anyone watching. Like, clearly we can't go spend a week in Austin anytime we want, right? Like, what are small things that we can do every day to bring in the fun? You know, we can bring in the fun by going for a walk in the morning. We can bring in the fun by breaking out the hose and having a water fight with our kids, right? We can have fun by breaking out water balloons. I don't know.
All on my agenda this year.
Yay! But I think that if you break it down that way and say, how can I have fun and bring in adventure in the everyday life of things, it can keep this balance even through the middle of a work week, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. And for me being who I am, I would add just other people that carry the same energy and that you resonate with to any of those experiences.
Right.
So bring a friend on a walk, bring a friend to the beach, you know, play with the kids in the backyard with the hose and water balloons and stuff, like.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, what's also fun for me would be just to like go to the park alone and just sit there and be in the sun for 20 minutes and just like soak up all of nature that I can.
Yeah.
So, but there's a good balance of to your point earlier, like to have that time to just ground within yourself, and then also have fun people around you too, that provide that energy, that give you what you may not have been able to find on your own.
Yeah. Agreed. Cool. Okay. What other lessons did you have?
Other lessons. We've already touched on a lot of them. The one that just came to me right now was just keeping the awareness of other people.
Thank you for bringing that up, because it's very close to what I had. And it really comes down to that communication piece again. I think that understanding of other people, awareness, understanding, however you choose to define, as in how we communicate and what waves or ripples it can cause in communication and relationships. And I think that that's a big one of people understanding each other in relationships, because admittedly, there were some waves caused within our group a little bit. It's like, ooh, like, and the thing that I love and I honor for all of us is we took a step back to just understand each other even at a deeper level. And the four of us have known each other for a year and a half now. And even a year and a half later, that just different, deeper level of taking a step back and saying, okay, there's ripples. Like, what can we do? I personally think that some of those lessons for me can be carried through in every part of life, with people we work with deep friendships, with relationships, spouses, children, whomever, to not back off when things get hard, but actually lean in and say, okay, here's what's going on right now. What are we going to do about it? And just being open and frank about those kind of conversations.
Yeah, 100%. And for me in that, it's a lot of getting out of my own head and realizing that every other person that we interact with has their own story of what's happening going on in their head, that we may or may not be privy to unless we ask the question.
Right.
And so opening the door and saying, okay, you know what, I'm feeling something's off here. This is what's going on for me. What's going on for you? Yes. And sometimes if we build the story in our own head that's like, okay, nothing's going on for that person, this is all me and I feel like crap right now, then that tends to get bigger, and then it can provide a bigger gap in your relationship or whoever you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Whereas it could just be gone very quickly if you just open the door and ask the question and have that communication.
Yeah, agreed. I think ripples are good sometimes. I really do. I think ripples help you to really understand people at a deeper level. And inadvertently, I think ripples, or however you choose to phrase them, at times often causes people to disconnect. And that's the point that really I want to bring to our viewers is, don't allow it to break you apart. Allow it to bring you together. Allow those ripples to really, to your point, take that step back and say, help me to know your perspective right now, because here's what I'm seeing.
Right. And more often than not, we're not seeing it right.
Right. I'm like, yeah. Agreed.
So, sorry, my husband's texting me. I'm having to.
You are all good. Yeah, that was a big one for me, and I believe that it can carry through to any communication with anyone, but certainly for the people who are closest to you guys, just work on the understanding, and there's so many gifts within that.
Yeah. Jason said he hopes you're feeling better.
Oh, well.
And enjoy the rest of our call.
I love it. Yes. And the joy of a head cold and now a chest cold. It's all good. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Quite honestly, I was just going to say, quite honestly, that was one of the biggest lessons for me, is just in that big picture of, stuff happens and stuff comes up. And if you sit on it, it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah. And how many times, I can only speak to my lifetime, but in my lifetime, I can tell you that for years, I would have kind of shied away from some of that, like, oh no. And there's just beauty in building those relationships. So.
Right. And for me, I think it's once again my lesson in trusting myself through anything is if I'm feeling a certain way about it, not assuming that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
and just assuming that everything might be okay with whoever else is in the situation.
Yeah.
And just opening that door and having the conversation about it to see what's really there.
Agreed.
Instead of ignoring parts of my subconscious that are telling me something's off.
Yeah. Let's not ignore things. Up for reasons, which is another good, like honor your what you feel and your intuition. I did a post about it this morning. Like,
Yeah.
just honor the things that you feel. Know your balance, right? Like, know your equal, your center. Know your center, and know what that feels like when you're center. And then when something throws you off, it's a cue to say, yeah, something's really not right in this situation. And how do I want to read it? What do I want to do about it?
Absolutely. And in that, one needs to know what their center is,
right,
in order to know when they're off.
Right. All right. So let's stay on that topic for a minute. How do you know your center?
A lot of practice. And I mean, I've said this on our stuff many times, is for me, balance comes from building a lot of the foundation in a lot of the basic ways.
Yeah.
So making sure I have enough sleep and a healthy diet and good enough water, and I have a meditation practice in every day, and like little things like that just like, if I miss some of that, now granted, if I miss some of it for a few days, it's likely not going to be a big deal, especially if I'm fulfilled in other ways. But over time, that lack of foundation builds up and can cause you to be off center, then you don't know what that center is.
Okay, so let's stay on this topic, because I think this is a really good one and an important one for people. And I tend to work on it a lot, and as I would guess that you do as well, is we first need to know who we are and who we want to be. And when we're being that to me is my center. Like, when I'm truly being that, that's when I can define, like, yep, I can feel it now physiology wise. But I can tell you for decades, being in such a consistent, anxious, stressful state as I was, I probably I couldn't have easily told you what my balance was. Because I probably would have been off, because I would have said that my balance is a highest strung, stressful, anxious state. Like that, I've literally had it that was me in a normal, I'm just an intense person. And I am pretty intense, but it hasn't been until the last several years that I've really found, like, okay, I'm still an intense person. However, this is where I'm balanced. And this is where my body truly feels like I'm in alignment with every part of who I am, mind, body, spirit connection. So
yeah, I love that you said the knowing who you are and who you want to be piece, because that's absolutely critical. I know, especially in certain interactions with patients or whatever I'm doing, that like after that's all done, it's like every cell in my body's basically vibrating, because I'm like, now this is in complete and total alignment with what I'm here to do, and who I'm here to support and who I'm here to be. And it's like, if we could feel that way all the time, it's just like, that would be the most powerful, most amazing experience ever. Now granted, I don't think that we can feel like that way all the time, because life happens. But to be able to have those experiences and to recognize that's the human potential.
Yeah. And for that person who tends to live in a more anxious, stressful state, how do they get there? How do they find that balance?
Start small. I mean, like I said, for me, it's a lot of those foundational pieces in the basics of health. But in the other aspect of things, to your point, really getting clear on what you want, who you feel that you are, who you want to be, and what you truly, truly want. That's actually, I've given that homework to 2 different patients this week. In that, like next time I see you, I want to find out what you really truly want. Just like I said at the beginning of this podcast, Jen, like we can't ever get to where we want or what we want without knowing what we.
Yeah. Well, and another note that I just made is, it's knowing what to let go of.
Sorry,
because
I'm here. I don't know. My picture's gone for a second. There it is.
you're fine. You're here on our end. The other note that I just made is it's knowing what to let go of.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think to the anxiousness and the anxious moments I had, and there were things that I just needed to let go of and allow to be whatever they were going to be, and let go of whatever expectation or whatever perceived future or whatever that was. And in letting go of that, it certainly released a lot of the stress. And I think that as we talk it through, um, of course, like I mentioned earlier, knowing who you want to be and how you want to show up, how you want other people to see you, right? But also knowing what you want to let go of and what you don't want to have, emotionally or any way otherwise, to me would be two key components to getting to that. Here's what true bliss feels like energetically.
Right. Yeah, I really like that of letting go of any expectations.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you said that, though, because I'm going to throw something out there. Because the one other piece that stood out to me with what you said was how we want other people to see us.
Yeah, so
And
let me bring context to that.
Yeah.
I find for a lot of my clients, when I say, who do you want to be? They really have a hard time with that question. Whereas if we back it out and say, okay, when other people see you, what do you want them to see? And often just that shift in question, they go from not being able to answer that question to be able to say, oh, here, I want to be fun loving. I want to be this. I want to be this. I want to be this.
It's true.
And it's just a different way to look at it of.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that.
For me, my coaching clients, they find it easier to answer that question when they take themselves out of the mix.
Yeah.
Oftentimes.
I can totally see that. And for me, it brings up a little bit of expectation of who I have to be for others versus staying true to here.
Yeah. Not a have to be. It's a who you want, how you want other people to see you, as opposed to who you think you have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But good clarification, because that simple word of who you think you have to be versus who you want to be, I think is an important one. Yeah.
And what happens if you feel there's a discourse between who you want to be and who you are?
Okay. Ask me that question again.
How would you feel, or how would you help support someone if they feel that there's a difference or there's a disconnect between who they want to be and who they really are?
That's exactly where we work, because that puts you out of alignment. When you're being someone who isn't your genuine and generally, generally, that was tough, you guys. Okay. Generally, what I find is, oftentimes people are out of that way because they think people expect something different than what, and that's where I work on the belief piece and just the confidence piece, because it often happens out of, self-worth, self-love, confidence. It can be out of experience. I can tell you that as someone who has brought conversations forward before and have been laughed at, giggled at, criticized for, picked on for having an opinion, I can tell you for a while it shut me down. And most of the clients who are drawn to me struggle with that same thing, because they've been laughed at, picked on, criticized for having their honest opinion, which in turn, their honest opinion then gets stifled, and then they think they're quote unquote wrong.
Right.
Which is a word I'm not going to say on this live show right now, because I don't want to offend anybody. But it's a bunch of poo, it's just horrible. Like, no one should feel that way. And it comes back to our original conversation about communication and just being where people are at, honoring that just because this isn't your opinion doesn't make the other person silly, wrong, or bad. It just makes that their opinion and their perspective. So what I work with is that alignment of just someone being confident enough that if someone laughs at them, picks at them, has a disagreement, objects with them, whatever, they can still say, that's okay, this is me, and I love me. And that's such a powerful thing for anyone to be able to say. That was a tangent, and I hope it answered your question.
Yes, I think it did.
Good. Yeah, it's that gap. It's working on that gap to make sure that to help people get to thriving in life with who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I don't feel like it's always the easiest thing,
No.
especially if you've lived in someone else's expectations of who you should be for decades, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Teasing that apart when you're whatever age you may be,
Right.
especially if it's after a long time, it's not always an immediate shift. It takes some time of repatterning it to a lot of the points you've made in the past.
Yeah, and it really takes a lot of just internal strength. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not as easy to go against the flow, right? Like when everyone else is going this direction and you really know this is the right direction, and it feeds through to so many things. I mean, look at how many kids follow the direction because it's, even if it's the wrong choice,
Yep.
they follow it because it's what the group is doing, even though they're not supposed to have that beer because they're only 14 years old. They do it because everyone else is doing it.
Right. Which in all honesty, I feel like that's a really hard thing in being a teacher for kids or being a parent or whatever it is that stage of, well, why should I do this? Well, it's because I freaking said so. Like, but I want and encourage you to have your own thoughts and have your own opinions and challenge authority. So if you feel something different, and learn from the other person's perspective so that you can understand each other as to why one person says this, why one person says this. And sometimes, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter. Other times 2 + 2 is 4. Right?
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot more gray area than there is black and white.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, and again, it's that, and as we say it, it really starts at such a young age. Like the more that we can embrace young people in honoring what they know is right or what they believe or their thoughts or their opinions at a young age, and embracing them using their authentic, real voices, then I think the more strength that they have going into adulthood of being able to honor those same thoughts, perspectives, and opinions.
Yeah. I know I've fallen into that trap many times, just making the assumption that because I'm the adult and I'm the parent that I was right. And then I'd step back and go, nope, you're totally right. I was very wrong.
Yeah.
And I'll always admit that when it's there.
Yeah.
And just step back for a second and say, nope, you're totally right. My bad. My apologies. So, and I know I've always seen my kids when that happens, they get really happy.
Yeah. Like, oh, she said she's wrong. Yeah, I can do that. So cool. Wow, these were some great lessons, Christy.
Yeah.
Communication, relationships, perspectives, honoring oneself. Any other final thoughts?
Listening to your body.
Honoring your body. Yeah, listening to your body.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one.
Yeah. And what happens when we can't listen to our body?
What do you mean can't? Bring me context on that.
I'm bringing context in the sense of if we're somewhere where we have responsibilities and obligations to follow through on things and our bodies are telling us, well, I really need rest.
Oh, so I have a good example of this one. So we were at a training all weekend, guys, and like this is actually sounding really good compared to where I was at in the weekend. I was exhausted. I just wanted a bed and sleep. And admittedly, I wasn't going to miss the course or the certification. Like there was no way. For me, it was a kind of a combination. Like I supported myself as best as I could with fluids and just calling in self-support, I think. But I think that that's a really good, I don't have an answer because I didn't certainly honor what my body was telling me it needed over the weekend. And I think we all have those moments that we still have to do something, even though our bodies, we really need this, but well, and that's not true. So I did somewhat adjust. I adjusted my workouts every morning, walked instead of doing anything more tougher.
And in the sense, I remember you mentioning the day after you slept in.
Oh my gosh, I slept till like 8:30, I think it was. which is guys, I don't sleep till 8:30. Like that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So that's just, if we can't honor our body in the moment,
Yeah.
because stuff is in the way and we have obligations and
Yeah, we have
commitments
life.
that we want to follow through on too. It's not just that we have to, it's like we want it to be there and you want it to be present for everything that you are going through and doing. If we're in a situation where we can't do exactly what we know our body needs at that moment,
Yeah.
honor it in a different way, and then when that time is over, play catch up a bit.
Yeah, adjust as much as you can to honor your body and take care of our body, right? Like this is the only one that we get. Let's take care of it.
Yep. And you can always call me for little holistic tips. And
Hey. Yes, yes. Awesome. Any other final thoughts?
that's all I got right now. We have a final thought coming our way, though.
Yay.
Everyone's gone.
Hi, you say hi first.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Jenny.
Oh. All right, guys. A fun story. Hi, Peyton. How's your day?
She said, how's your day?
Are you having fun with your mom? Good.
We were at the park a little shortly before coming on the call. So, do we have any other thoughts before closing out today? So, I don't know who was watching today. I don't know if we were able to catch the comments or anything. But whoever was here live or whoever was catching it on the replay, say hi, let us know. And
I'm going to say I love you guys because I'm going to have a coughing fit. Love you
all
guys
good.
for joining us.
Love to everybody and have a really fantastic rest of your day.